Thank you for that. Um,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
yeah, I'm just so excited. People are around like, what is that? What's going on? So yeah, I guess I would like to welcome you here to Data Yap. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Sean McComiskey. I am a Baltimore-based physical therapist by day and a button accordion player by other times, not exclusive to the day or to the night. Um, and that was a little tune on here, I'll pull it up so we can actually see the instrument that I was playing. Um, which is called this is a Cajun accordion. This was made in uh, Louisiana. You can see it there, made in
Oh,
Louisiana
nice.
by a famous Cajun accordion player and maker named Mark Savoy. Oh, there you go. Yeah. And that was an Irish tune called The Priest in His Boots, which is a tune that I've been playing for many moons. It's an old Irish tune. It's actually a dance piece and works really well on this particular instrument. So I've been playing now for oh god, like 30 years plus something like that. Almost
Whoa,
30 years, yeah. Which
wow,
is amazing.
wow. Well, I just want to say, that was pretty amazing because I think that's the first time I've seen you play. Like the audience doesn't know this, but Sean, I met Sean because you are my physical therapist.
Yep, that is true.
um, and like I didn't know for a while that that you also play the accordion until you had to go to that tournament in Europe last year. Was that
Mhm.
last year or the year before?
It was last year and the year before, so I went twice. It's to a music festival. I had to qualify for it in the States. It's called the Flaughkiol, which is an Irish word for basically a big music competition. And I had to qualify for it over here and then traveled over to Ireland um, 2 years in a row to compete. The first year I actually got second on that accordion that I just played. Um, and then I didn't place the following year. So it was a good adventure. My student actually just got third last year, a young student of mine, which was pretty exciting. And yeah, so I've been and that was my kind of gateway into physical therapy as well, which I don't know how much of that story you know.
Yeah, no, I think like you mentioned that. But I know this is gonna be like a super interesting story. And I'm gonna go back to like when you play second in that competition because I remember distinctly you said that's like the there hasn't been an American who has won that competition in like 30 years or something, and the last person who won it was your dad. Am I
Yeah,
remembering that correctly?
that's correct. Yeah. Yeah, it was in 1986 is when he won, and there hasn't been an American to win um, in that time. So I came pretty close, but didn't quite get there. But maybe one of these days I'll go back, but we'll see.
I mean, you won. I think that's amazing.
I got a medal. That's pretty good.
Well, also like, so did your dad play the same instrument?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I learned from him. I started playing music when I was about 9 or 10. I started on the piano. I played the piano for about a year and a half. And then my piano teacher ended up taking a gig with a famous band in Irish music named Cherish the Ladies. I was learning from Donna Long, who's a local Irish piano player. And when she started going on the road, I sort of fell out of playing the piano and waffled for a little while, and then kind of gradually started basically just messing around with some of my dad's accordions around the house, and started taking lessons at a Irish festival up in the Catskills in upstate New York. in a town where my grandparents met on their first date, which is pretty amazing. It's a part of the Catskills called the Irish Alps. Um, and yeah, that was when I was 12, 13, something like that. And I'm now 40. So there's math that can be done in there. Um, but yeah, and I play with a band named called Charm City Junction. We're a Baltimore-based roots music quartet. We play a mix of bluegrass music and Irish music, and it's a great group. We've been playing together now for just over 10 years, which is pretty awesome. And I have a bunch of different collaborations. That particular tune I played was with a on an album that I recorded about 15 years ago of all the traditional dance, Irish dance tunes. Uh, so yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and the way that I ended up getting into PT is because I developed what I now recognize to be a repetitive stress injury in my hands when I was on a tour in Spain in 2010.
Okay, now I remember you did tell me this. But our audience, they probably don't know. So what happened in Spain?
Yeah, so I was playing for what is kind of what was basically an like a river dance kind of show. Everyone, I'm sure people remember Riverdance as that big Michael Flatley dance tour. And this was a basically a copycat kind of show, and we were doing a 3 week uh, run of shows in Madrid, and I was like 25 or something. And you can imagine how much fun that was to be paid and have a hotel in downtown Madrid and do gigs and partying and all that. But my hands started to what I now know to be a buildup of myofascial restriction. And I wasn't having pain, but my muscles were not cooperating and I couldn't keep up with the music because my body wasn't used to it, which I all understand now. But at the time I had no idea. And one of the dancers on the tour saw me kind of like doing, stretches and like this kind of stuff. And she was like, "Is everything okay? You should get some physiotherapy," which is what people in Europe and Ireland call physical therapy.
Hmm.
And I was like, "What's that? I didn't know that was a thing. You could get PT for being a musician." And as soon as I got home from that tour, I did a little Googling and found a local PT named David Schulman, which is who I ended up training with. He's retired now, but I worked with him in his last year when he was based in his office in Towson, where he specialized in repetitive stress injuries. He worked with musicians in the BSO and Peabody students. And he also treated a lot of TMJ and temporomandibular joint issues, headaches, and neck pain, which is all the stuff that I treat now, in addition to all the work with musicians. So it's pretty cool. It's a really interesting combination of skill sets and special interests that I was able to kind of stumble on and carve out and harness my nerdy ADHD powers to focus on being both a good musician and a PT. It's been great. And that's how I know you
Wow. Wow. What
and
a
so many other
journey.
great people.
Yeah, no, what a journey. Okay, well, I guess for those who don't know, we're not in Baltimore. Towson is basically one of the suburbs around Baltimore.
Hmm.
Um, and then for those who know what TMJ is, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, Team J is basically jaw pain. It's kind of a constellation of symptoms. It can be headaches, it can be jaw pain, difficulty eating, dizziness, um, ear pain, tooth pain, eye pain, all sorts of weird symptoms that come along as a product of muscle overuse that develops around the jaw. And it's usually related to nighttime bruxism, which is jaw clenching, and
Mm.
that builds up muscle tension and it starts to cause people pain. And it can be really hard to diagnose because it can masquerade as a bunch of different things. And then once you kind of recognize the pattern that the muscles, the pattern of pain that the muscles cause, it's pretty easy to kind of spot it. And that's what I kind of stumbled into to treating, and it's really interesting work. Um, And I think we've talked about some of that, the different myofascial, how the muscle pain can cause all sorts of weird symptoms that can be, it seems like it's something scary, but it's actually just a muscle that got sore from sitting or from, sleeping in a funny position or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like you are such a great PT, so I
Oh, thank
appreciate.
you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. You know, like your professional work. Like the impact on me has been like super helpful.
Well, I mean, that's, why I do it, because I am able to have a direct impact on people's lives and, uh, help people make sense of stuff that plagues their lives. And, because we're all going to have pain. It's a normal part of being human. But when you understand it and understand why you have it and why you need it, but also how to control it, it can be so empowering, and improve the quality of your day-to-day life, it's amazing to be able to have that skill set now. Because I remember a time not that long ago where I didn't know how to do that. And now I do. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, wow. And I know this, so you were a musician and then you stumbled upon PT, right? Almost
Hmm.
by accident, it sounds like. Um, and so I guess I'm just like curious, um, like when you're performing, either like you're practicing by yourself or you're having a little jam session or in front of a crowd, um, and like what is that like and how is that similar or different from like when you're seeing patients like myself?
What the Probably the main um, continuous theme between the two is that there's a performance component. Uh, like when I'm on stage, obviously I'm performing and I'm talking or I'm, introducing a tune or I'm playing a solo or something like that. That's a pretty straightforward kind of performative context. But in PT, it's similar in that someone comes into my office, they were either referred to me or they found me on Google or their friend referred them to me or, they found me on some lists where I'm listed as a specialist or something like that. And they come in and they sit down in the chair and you can probably remember the first time you met me or some approximation of that. And it's my job in that moment to convince you that what I do is going to help you. Because how many other PTs are there out there? And there's a performative element to that. Um, and being a PT has in ways made me a better performer because it just gives me so much more experience talking to people I don't know all that well. Uh, and I have actually felt it like being on stage and introducing, because I used to get nervous on stage telling a story about a tune that I wrote or that a song that we're going to do or something. And I'd get nervous and I'd lose track. But now it's a much kind of, I found myself being more comfortable with it, which is an unexpected thing. And that's purely just because I spend more time. Um, Talking in front of people, even if it's only one or two people. It's still people I don't know and I've never met before. Uh, so, and there's other things like I'm always thinking about posture and biomechanics and how that plays in for all of my musician buddies are all having problems, and particularly as we all get older. So every time I go out somewhere, they're like, "Oh man, I have this thing on my wrist or my back hurt." That's par for the course for being a PT. And luckily, I like that. I like talking to people, that kind of stuff. But that's the one kind of continuous theme between the two is them feeding each other as becoming a better performer in both contexts, which has been kind of cool and an unexpected perk.
Wow. Wow. I never thought of it in that way, but I can see.
You can see it, right? When
Yeah, I
you
can
kind of
see
frame
it.
it that way.
Yeah. I guess
Because
I
if I
mean,
don't put on a good show, someone's going to go off and go somewhere else, right?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see it as a show necessarily, but
But
basically,
you get the idea, right?
yeah, like that initial consultation
Hmm.
would determine if the person will come back or not.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I guess I'm curious about because obviously you have performed a lot. and then you have also seen a lot of patients like multiple times. Um, how about in terms of like, you can like practice and practice, and then when you get to a show, there's gonna be some elements of, I guess not surprise, but like improvisation, because not every performance will be the same.
Hmm.
Um, but then also like obviously you have like all this extensive training, and you see a patient and it's like you kind of have to adapt to whatever that patient, um, what their needs are or what their concerns are. So I guess I'm just curious about like what have you ever thought about that element of like how you adapt, on the stage and also adapt when you're seeing patients.
Well, on stage, the band that I perform with most regularly now, no show that live performer does is exactly the same. Like there's always going to be little elements of improvisation. Uh, the band that I play with, there's a lot of it just because of the nature of the kind of music that we're playing. And they've actually kind of upped my game on the improvisation because in Irish music, there's not a whole lot of that. There's little subtle things, but you don't take like big improvisational solos, um, which you do in bluegrass or jazz because bluegrass and jazz are very kind of connected and interrelated in some of the improvisational components in them. Um, and how that relates to being a PT, I mean, with PT, there's a lot of I think the hardest part of my job is differential diagnostics. And the farther into my career I get, the more I understand how little, this is the classic thing, how little we really understand. Um, because there's a lot of stuff that, when you're in school, you think there's going to be this, you do this special test on someone and then that's positive and that indicates that they have X diagnosis. And that's not really how it works. Like sometimes it is, but a lot of times it can be really difficult to figure out where some particular kind of pain that someone is experiencing is coming from. Uh, and on any given day, someone asks me about some different kind of thing, and I have to think on my toes, which is an improvisational, you know, element to it. It's problem solving too, it's like a puzzle, which is one of the things that I think is really fun about the muscle myofascial work, because it's all a big puzzle and it's trying to figure out the pieces. And the better I get at understanding the patterns, the better I am at kind of thinking on my toes. But such a big part of my job is trying to answer complicated questions that I don't always know the answer to. And in ways that's like trying to think of the solo on a tune that I've never played before, because you got to think on your toes and you got to be quick with your responses, but also you have to be succinct and you have to communicate it in a way that isn't too jargon heavy or too notey. uh, so it's similar parts of my brain. I've not entirely thought about it that way until this conversation, which is cool. But yeah, that there's a lot of that kind of interweaving between my two passions or my two careers or whatever.
Wow. And then I know this word has come up a lot, the myofascial, and I know you
Mhm.
have explained this to me,
Well, we got
but
to explain it for the crowd.
yeah, just in case there's somebody out there who's like, "What is that word? Like, what does that mean?"
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people watching have probably either heard the term, uh, and basically it's a term for muscle pain or talking about muscles. Myo is the part of the word that means muscle, and fascial refers to connective tissue interwoven between muscles and tendons and skin, and they sort of work together and get tight together, and we treat it all together. Uh, and increasingly, fascia is considered another system in the body because of the mechanics of how it moves and how it can limit mobility. And uh, and cause pain. And the stuff that I treat every day is what are called trigger points in muscle, which is synonymous with the term a muscle knot. We all know that term. But what's actually happening in the muscle is there's little contractile muscle fibers, and these fibers come together and they come apart, and a spot in those muscle fibers gets locked into this contracted position, and the muscle fibers around it are trying to function normally. But that one spot, and then two spots, and then three spots start to become dysfunctional, and they start to cause symptoms. And the initial symptoms are going to be feeling tight or feeling fatigued or feeling tired, which is what I was feeling when I was in Madrid. I wasn't having pain per se. I was just tight. My muscles were tight because I didn't know how to take care of them. And I was using them so much, and they were just getting grumpy, literally, and they were starting to develop myofascial trigger points. So that's the symptoms that I was getting. If I had pushed it for another couple of weeks, I would have been in pain eventually. Um, and these trigger points, myofascial trigger points, muscle knots, whatever you want to call them, they cause all sorts of weird pain. Uh, and it can feel straightforward, like, oh, I feel like my muscle feels tight. But it can cause all sorts of strange tingling and sharp pains and dull pains and diffuse pains. And it can feel deep. It can feel like a bruise. It can feel, you can have a headache with it, it can cause, particularly in your neck and around your head, it can cause ear ringing and ear pressure and tooth pain and all these kind of weird symptoms.
Mm.
Uh, and when you study this stuff enough, like I have, it starts to feel like X-ray vision in ways because you can see someone move in such a way and you can say they have a trigger point in their gluteus medius, and then you go dig around and it hurts, and then they walk a little better after that. So um, it's cool stuff, and it's not all PTs do it. It's increasingly prevalent in the field, but I didn't learn any of it until I was working in the field and trained with David and a few other PTs that I had the good privilege of working with. But it's the meat and potatoes of everything I do now.
Wow. Yeah, and actually, before this interview, I was using the lacrosse ball to release some of this
Hmm.
upcoming potential tension from just like like sitting down in this chair
Yep. Oh
for
yeah.
this conversation. And I know, okay, you were a musician first, and then you went to PT. I remember you telling me that you kind of when you started your PT practice, it was like when the pandemic started.
Hmm.
And so there's actually that third component of like you're also an entrepreneur. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're not like working for like what's that, like a corporate PT kind of with like nationwide locations. Like you're
Yep.
running your own practice, and so actually I wanted to kind of touch on that if you would like. How is that journey going? Like, because it's different to be like the business person versus like the practitioner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such different parts of my brain that um, I had to engage and train and learn. And then, as a PT in and of itself is such a skill. So I was so focused on being a good PT. And in my first year as a licensed clinician, I trained with David and was like, I would have these complicated patients and I wouldn't know what to do. And they would ask me these complicated questions and I wouldn't have the answers to them. So I was so focused on learning the hands-on skills and training and getting better. And then when he decided to retire, uh, he did offer to help me kind of get up and running if I was interested in doing that, which is a huge leg up in terms of, for someone starting their own practice. Um, but it's still, I had to kind of take some time and figure out what that looks like and how should I take insurance? Should I not take insurance? How do I take insurance? What does all that entail? And that coincided with March of 2020, which is I was in the first few months of just starting to treat patients on my own and getting used to that. And then a pandemic hit, and we all know what happened with that. Um, and the pandemic ended up being this weird kind of blessing in disguise for me in that regard because I was forced to take some time off and figure out how to put some of the pieces together. And while I was on hiatus from work between March and July, I built some of the infrastructure for billing insurance and slogged through computer systems online and learned how to do billing and all that kind of stuff. And now I'm a solo practitioner and I run my own small practice. Um, and I'm busy, but I am busy on my own terms and I have full control over my schedule and how I, want to run and run my practice and work with my patients. And it's busy and I have a lot on my mind and I have a lot of stuff that I have to remember, but it's amazing. And I owe a lot of credit to my wife, who is influential, or instrumental is the word, in encouraging me to do that because it's incredibly intimidating. But she was a very good at problem solving and, said one thing at a time, come up with a list of stuff you don't know and go by one and figure it out. And that's what I tell people now. So I've tried to encourage a bunch of people that I went to school with to start their own little micro practice, and because it gives you much more control and you can treat how you want to treat and do what you want to do. And it's an amazing experience to have that kind of control. But it's also intimidating when you're on the front end. I'm trying to figure it out. And to be here now, like, with as many people as I see in any given week, I, see between 35 and 40 patients a week, and I'm not in the office on Friday, so I have Fridays off, which means Monday through Thursday are very busy. But then I have 3-day weekends, and I can use that to travel. But if I want to see patients, I can build my schedule however I want. If we're going to take vacation or anything like that, so it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty good, pretty good setup, I have to say.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you sound like you curated your life according to, like you have a job that you are very passionate about, obviously, and then you also have this music that fills your life probably like more
The
than
rest
just
of the
a weekend.
time.
Yeah, the rest of the time. um, yeah, and I mean that's like really amazing and very inspiring. Because I think a lot of times, uh, people do want to be their own, to build their own business and things like that. But it's very scary. So thank you for, sharing your experience and.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I remember in my younger phases of like when I had a different job and I was not as happy in that job, and I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to do and trying to find different jobs and, what skills do I have? How can I get out of this? What do I want to? And now I'm not plagued by that. I just am doing things that I love, which is incredibly fortunate. And not everybody is privileged in that way. Um, and I work pretty hard. Yeah, I mean, I'm running around and I have patients all day long and that kind of thing. And then I run off and do a gig or whatever. So I'm hustling, but it's all for things that I'm passionate about, which I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to be doing that. Um, and it makes me better at it because I care about it, which not everyone can say. I went to school with people who don't like PT because they're overworked in jobs that they don't like, and they've kind of fallen out of even being PTs, or they have corporate jobs that just work them to hell. And there's a high burnout rate for this kind of stuff, because you work hard, but you don't have control over your freedom or over your schedule. So I have both, and it's pretty privileged position to be in. So I'm very grateful for that, and it's fun,
Wow. Yeah, no,
all of it.
yeah, no, that's amazing. 'Cause I've seen other PTs before you, when I used to live somewhere else. And when you first meet a PT, like, okay, this is a PT. Usually they're, I don't know, like, I'm not saying rigid, but like, there seems to be like this kind of like, I don't know. You just seem like really chill. um, and when if somebody met you on the street, like they're not gonna be like, oh, this like you're not like this hardcore PT, because you could be really any kind of job, and for you to be so busy, I didn't know that you see like 30, 40 patients a week.
Mhm.
For you to be that busy and still, I feel like you take the time to um, talk and listen to your patients, aka me. I'm talking about my experience here.
Yep.
um, I would not have known that you see that many people. Um, because you really I feel like when I go to my session with you, like you take the time to talk to me and listen to me, and
Hmm.
um
Which is such an important part of that kind of care, this kind of
it,
care, you know?
I think the thing a lot with seeing any kind of like medical professional is like it feels like we're not being listened to, or it's like the sessions always feel rushed. So,
Hmm.
and I never feel that way when I go to your session.
Good. I'm glad. That's by design.
Yeah, so wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there's a complicated dynamic in medicine where the more people you treat, the more money you make. And that's just the nature of the beast. Like if I was treating two or three people at a time, I would make two or three times the money that I make. But that would make my life chaotic in a way that I don't want it to be. And you know, I can only do so much at any given time. Uh, so the quality of care suffers the more it's like anything else. Volume goes up, quality goes down. So
Yeah,
being able to spend time and work through because that's that enables us the time to troubleshoot what you're doing throughout the day that could be causing pain that you don't realize, and a busier setting doesn't allow for that because it's like here's a couple exercises and now I'm off to the next person. But we can kind of delve into what you're doing throughout the day and troubleshoot and teach you how to manage it and improve all those things, and it improves the overall experience for you, but it also for me as well because I feel like I'm doing a good job, but I'm also giving myself breaks and not overworked, and my brain isn't completely fried by the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. No, actually, when you were describing like that chaotic environment, um, everyone I've seen before you, all the PTs I've seen before you, actually usually it's like that where I mean they're all cool people, right?
Mhm.
But like I would check in and then they would tell me, okay, I get on the elliptical or whatever for like a few minutes, and then while I'm there for like 5 minutes, they're then going back to another patient who
Yep.
is supposed to do a set of exercises, and then they go back to me, and then they go back to another person, and it seems like they are seeing like multiple people all at the same time.
Yeah.
um yeah, actually everyone I've ever seen are like that, so you are actually the first one where like it's like, oh, you're not, there's no other patients here.
Yeah.
um
It's not common. I mean, it's hard. You have to. That's why the structure of my practice is so small because if I was in a bigger place with a bunch of gym equipment that I paid for with much higher rent and I was seeing one person an hour, it would be hard to justify it financially. But because my office is so small and I don't have a lot of, stuff that makes it all operationally more expensive, I can prioritize person to person, both physical treatment time and, talking and working through the issues rather than, having three people on all the different gym equipment, billing their insurance for that. So it's just, there's all these different levers that you have to dial, adjusting what you're doing because if I had a bigger space, I'd be not making enough money to justify it, and I'd have to fill that with more people, and I'd be overworked, and the quality of care would go down. So, and
yeah,
then trim all that away, and I can spend more time with you to figure out, what your desk situation is like that's causing your hip pain or whatever.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I that's why I was like this, like experiencing PT with you is like very different from like my previous PT experiences. And I'm not like talking bad about them.
Sure. No, it's just
They
it's the
helped me
way
at the
that yeah.
time, yeah, but it's a very different model for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I got from one of my early PT instructors and mentors, he gave me a really good piece of advice. He was just like, whatever you end up doing or whatever you end up specializing in, make yourself different from everybody else. Because There's a lot of PTs, and we're all doing the same stuff. And if you're just like everybody else, you're just like everybody else. But if you can figure out a way to be unique and stand out, then you'll do well. So that's what I did.
Well, I mean,
I had a
as a
lot of luck along the
PT,
way too. So
yeah, I mean, as a PT, you're standing out, and then also with the whole music thing, right? So,
yep,
you're definitely a multi-hyphenate, which is the focus of this show. Um,
cool.
yeah, and usually I ask people, any parting words, but I don't know, like if you feel like it, would you like to do like a parting tune?
Sure, yeah. I will do oh wait, do I have it? There it is. Okay. I'm gonna do on the accordion, on my melodeon. We play lots of waltzes. Let me see if I can see it. Um, a waltz is in three, dum 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 dum. So all dance music. So this is an old waltz called the Spanish Fandango. Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor to be a part of the Data Yap, and I look forward to seeing it on the big screen. Um, but here's a tune called the Spanish Fandango.
Woo! Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, no, thank you so much. What a treat. We got two songs and
Yeah, eat it up.
and a lot of, rich knowledge from you. I want to thank you again. And yeah, I guess I'll see you. I'll see you
See you
at the
next time.
PT. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me, and yeah, maybe link my website. My Birch Tree Physical Therapy is my practice, based in Baltimore. So if there's anyone in the area, I'm your guy. One on one, baby.
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks again.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Have a great night.